I arrived just as the snow turned slush, the kind that soaks through your shoes no matter how fast you walk. Lake Briar looked frozen from a distance, and the old house my mother's pride sat like a polished ornament at the end of the long gravel drive. The house hadn't changed. The people inside had, or maybe they hadn't at all. When I stepped into the living room, still brushing snow from my sleeves, I saw it, a framed photo over the fireplace. Large, shiny, obnoxiously centered, like it was a magazine ad for holiday perfection. There was Linda, my mother, in her burgundy cashmere, smiling in that hollow way she does when she wants the world to know she's thriving. Beside her, my father, Robert, his face doing that stiff business lunch grin. Then, Carol front and center, always. Beige turtleneck, pearl earrings, laughing at some imaginary joke she probably rehearsed in the mirror. But me? I wasn't in it. Not blurred, not pushed to the side, just not there. They didn't crop me out. No, they had someone do it clean, professional, surgical, like I'd been a bad investment and they'd decided to cut losses. I stared for exactly 5 seconds. Long enough to feel my stomach tighten, not long enough to let anyone notice. Or maybe they did, and didn't care. Dinner's almost ready, Linda called from the kitchen. Like we were a functional group of people. It smelled like rosemary and lemon, warm, nostalgic. The kind of scent that used to mean home. I didn't say anything. I didn't ask about the photo, just hung up my coat and went where I was told. That's always been the dance. Carol greeted me with that breezy upper crust enthusiasm she probably learned in a wine marketing workshop. You made it, she said, like I was some client showing up late to a tasting. She air-kissed the space near my cheek. Not close enough to actually touch me, close enough to check off the box labeled polite sibling affection. I just nodded. I've gotten good at small, neutral gestures, the kind that say I'm here, but don't push it. The kitchen buzzed with curated chaos holiday music. Clinking glasses, clatter from whatever Linda was obsessively roasting. She looked up only briefly when I came in, then went back to arranging something on an oversized serving platter. The table was set like a lifestyle magazine spread. Mismatched antique plates for the homey feel, crystal glassware, gold linen napkins folded like origami swans. Even the candles matched Carol's outfit. I took the end seat, the one closest to the drafty window. Dinner unfolded like theater. Robert carved the roast like he was hosting a dinner party for investors. Linda complimented Carol's skincare routine twice, like it was a performance review. No one asked how I was. No one asked where I'd been or what I was doing with my life. The only thing I got was still driving that little gray car, which in this house means we don't know anything about your life, and we don't care enough to find out. Carol unwrapped her gift, next vintage designer watch, obviously expensive. She squealed, posed for a picture with it like an influencer doing brand work. Nothing too fancy, Linda said, as if we all hadn't seen the receipt peeking from the tissue paper. Then came my gift, a mug. It said, "World's okayest son, subtle." On brand. I excused myself after dessert, claiming I was tired. Linda offered me the guest room. Not your old room, just guest room. It had beige sheets, one lamp that flickered when you breathed near it, and a bookcase full of hardcover novels no one ever read. I closed the door, turned on the lamp, sat on the edge of the bed. Then I reached into my bag and pulled out the envelope. Thick ivory paper, embossed seal. I had planned to give it to them in the morning. After the presents, after the cinnamon rolls. After the usual lies we call tradition, but that photo in the living room, that wasn't a mistake. It was a message. And I'd brought one of my own. I didn't sleep that night. Not because the guest room mattress had a spring that dug into my ribs, though it did. Not because the heat was uneven, or because the ticking wall clock outside the door reminded me of every second wasted pretending this house was still mine in any meaningful way. I didn't sleep because the envelope was too real in my coat pocket. Heavy. Literal and metaphorical weight. I lay there with my hands folded over my chest, like a body at rest, staring up at the cracked ceiling paint, thinking about how long it had taken me to piece it all together. It started months ago by accident. I was applying for a job at a local school and needed proof of my previous address for the background check. I went down to the Lake Briar Records office just to grab a form, and while I was waiting, I saw my name in a stack of housing ownership logs. A property I didn't recognize. At first, I assumed it was a mistake, someone else named Daniel Wells. But curiosity has always been the one thing I've never learned to shut off. So I looked deeper. Old tax forms, rental income reports, a scanned will from 6 years ago. That's when it all clicked. The triplex on Elm Street, the one with the ivy-covered fence and the sagging front porch, wasn't just a family asset, it was mine. Left to me by my grandfather. Sole beneficiary. Full title. Linda had told me it was sold after the funeral, that the proceeds went toward his medical debt and final expenses. She even showed me a fake spreadsheet once, just for flair. But the property had never been sold. They'd been renting it out for years, collecting income under my name, using my silence like a signature. I didn't react right away. I didn't confront anyone. I just watched, started checking bank records, found out the rent was wired to an account in Robert's name. Not even subtle, not even sorry. I thought about all the times I could have used that money, like when I missed a rent payment in grad school and had to sell my bike to cover groceries, or when I couldn't afford the medication after I got pneumonia and just powered through with off-brand cough syrup and crossed fingers. Meanwhile, Carol was flying to Morocco for an artist's retreat and posting daily vlogs titled things like Soft Mornings and Sustainable Magic. I used to think I was just less lovable, not flashy, not charismatic, too serious, too low maintenance to need attention. Turns out, being low maintenance just made me easier to neglect. I didn't make waves. So they gave me less, then blamed me for not asking for more. There was this one birthday, I think I was 12. I asked for a telescope, nothing fancy, just one of those beginner kits with a tripod and a little star map. Carol had a recital the next day, so my birthday dinner got moved to lunch. They forgot the cake, said we'd make it up later. We never did. That same year, Carol got a standing ovation for performing 3 lines in the school play. They took her to Olive Garden and gave her a bracelet that said, "Shine bright." I got a C+ on a math test that same week and was told to try harder. I stopped trying to impress them after that. After college, I moved out quietly. Took 3 jobs, paid off my loans. Lived in a walk-up with bad plumbing and a broken intercom system. I didn't ask for help. They didn't offer. The last time I visited before this year, I stayed one night and left before breakfast. Carol posted a photo of us at dinner, cropped me halfway out of it. Captioned it, "Holiday warmth with my favorite people." She meant Linda and Robert, not me. And now, this Christmas after all the silent years, the awkward family texts, the generic birthday emails signed love, mom and dad, they had the gall to crop me out again, but not from a photo this time, from everything. And I was done pretending I didn't notice. That morning, I got up before anyone else, made myself coffee, sat at the kitchen table in the cold silence that only big houses know how to hold. I listened to the floor creak overhead, Linda moving through her morning ritual. Carol's voice drifting down the stairs, saying something about baggage weight limits and her Barcelona trip. I didn't care. Let them rehearse their script. I'd rewritten mine. When the 3 of them finally shuffled into the kitchen, the show began. They performed like always, Carol beaming about her future plans. I just feel so supported. Robert reading headlines off his phone like conversation starters. Linda humming while plating scrambled eggs like she was hosting a cooking segment. No one noticed the envelope yet. Good. I didn't want a big scene. I wanted stillness. I waited until after breakfast, until the last bite of cinnamon roll had been soaked in coffee and the table was covered in polite crumbs and compliments. Then I reached into my coat and placed the envelope on the table, right between Linda's reclaimed wood centerpiece and Carol's designer tote. And just like that, the real holiday began. Linda was the first to notice the envelope. She reached for it like it might bite her ginger, suspicious, her manicured fingers, brushing the heavy seal like she was hoping it was a Christmas card from a distant relative, or maybe a bill she could push to January. "What's this?" she asked. Not at me. To the room. That was her move, always addressing silence, never people. I took another sip of coffee. It's from me. Robert looked up from his phone with that soft, performative confusion he wore whenever life dared to disrupt his curated peace. "You didn't have to get us anything," he said with a chuckle. "I know," I said. "I wanted to." That changed the air. Linda sat back down, flipping the envelope over, fingers hovering over the seal. Should we open it now? I shrugged. Up to you. I'd prefer if you didn't. So, naturally, she did. She broke the seal, pulled out the neatly stacked papers, started reading. Robert leaned in. Carol, still sipping almond milk from a wine glass, barely looked interested at first. She was too busy staging the straps on her new purse for the perfect drape, but then the silence changed. It went dense. Still, tense. I didn't even look up. I didn't have to. You can hear that kind of silence. The kind where the room forgets how to breathe. I heard pages shuffle. Robert let out a soft, "What the hell?" Carol furrowed her brow. "What is it?" They didn't answer. "So I did." "That," I said, "is the original will. Grandpa's. The real one." Linda blinked too much. "Always her tell. I've seen the will," she said tightly. "We handled all that." "No," I interrupted. "You handled what you told me was the estate. You never showed me the actual document. You said there wasn't much left. Some keepsakes, a small account." Robert dropped the stack of papers like they were burning through the table. I kept going. "What you didn't mention was the triplex on Elm Street, the one that's been generating rental income for 6 years. The one he left to me, sole beneficiary, full title transfer, dated, notarized, filed." "You don't understand how this works," Robert muttered. "Actually," I said, "I do. I spent 3 months understanding exactly how it works. Public records, title histories, property tax filings. I even found the old lease agreements where you were signing as the property manager, using my name to collect the rent." Carol finally stood up. "Wait, what triplex?" I turned to her. "The one you used for that rustic fall photo shoot last year. Remember? Hashtag living simply." "Yeah, that one." Her mouth opened. Nothing came out. Linda looked pale now. "Daniel," she said, switching to her boutique returns voice, soft, controlled. "Fragile. This isn't what it looks like." "Then you'll be relieved to know," I said, "that what it looks like is inheritance fraud. And what it is exactly that." Robert stood. "You need to calm down." "No," I said, rising slowly. "You need a lawyer." They froze. "I'm not suing," I added, "yet, but I've already reclaimed the property. The title's officially transferred. The tenants have been informed. Rent will now go to me. Your access to the building? Revoked." Linda looked like she might cry. "But that's our income." I tilted my head. "Then maybe you shouldn't have stolen it." She blinked fast. "We didn't think you'd want the responsibility. You've always been so distant, so far away." "I was far away," I said, "because you made it very clear I didn't belong here." Carol crossed her arms, defensive now. "You think this makes you better than us?" "No," I said, grabbing my coat. "It just means I'm not beneath you anymore." The silence that followed was suffocating. Not peaceful. Tight. Buzzing. Like the room was bracing for something but didn't know what. Robert stared at the papers, jaw clenched. Linda's lip trembled, like she was searching for a script that no longer fit the scene. Carol just looked stunned, like the spotlight had gone out and no one clapped. I reached for the door. "Wait," Linda said, rising. "Can't we just talk about this?" I turned. "We just did," I said. "Every time you left me out, every lie, every excuse. This was the conversation. You just didn't listen until now." "If you walk out that door," Robert said, voice tight, "don't bother coming back." I paused. That part stung. It shouldn't have, but it did. Still, I looked at him and said, "That's the first thing we've ever agreed on." Then I walked out. The air outside hit me, like clarity. Cold? Yes, but clean. I got in my car, let the engine hum back to life. I didn't yell, didn't cry, didn't even smile. I just drove. Because sometimes the loudest thing you can do is leave without making a sound. It took 3 weeks before I heard anything. Not that I was waiting. Not really. I was too busy dusting off windowsills, clearing out the furniture they'd crammed into my house like a forgotten attic. The triplex on Elm Street had good bones. You could tell someone once cared about it. The kind of care that starts from the baseboards. The kind that doesn't need marble countertops or Edison bulbs to feel real. They hadn't trashed the place, but they hadn't respected it either. The walls were a sad beige, the fixtures mismatched. The upstairs bathroom had a cracked mirror. There was an old wooden chair in the hallway, navy blue, scratched up, solid, the only thing I kept. It felt familiar, like something from a version of childhood that hadn't been revised or erased. The tenants were surprised when I showed up. Even more surprised when I told them rent was staying the same, maybe even going down a bit. One of them, a single mom named Teresa, left a thank you note in my mailbox. First landlord who's ever treated us like people. Thank you. That note meant more than any of Linda's half-hearted apologies ever could. Because it was real, not curated, not transactional, just kind. That was new for me. Meanwhile, back at the lake house, the fallout had begun. I didn't have to dig. News found its way to me. A cousin messaged me on Instagram. Heard about the inheritance thing. That's wild. Hope you're okay. A former neighbor said Robert was trying to refinance the condo. Apparently, the triplex had been propping up their finances for years. 3 rental units, steady cash flow, covered the mortgage, the vacations, the spa treatments Linda claimed were just really good skincare. It had paid for Carol's tuition, her car, her ridiculous Santorini photo shoots with the captions like perspective is everything. And when I took it back, the machine sputtered. Linda picked up weekend shifts at a boutique in town. Carol moved back home, her apartment no longer viable. Her art collective, according to her latest post, was on pause for internal restructuring. Translation, it collapsed. The GoFundMe she launched for her new creative chapter raised $83. $2 of that was from Mike, my ex-boyfriend. I don't know why that part made me laugh, but it did. I never told him what happened. He'd seen enough back when we dated. Like the night I brought him home and Robert called him Matt. Twice. He never came back after that dinner. I didn't blame him. But I did start to understand something. When people say blood is thicker than water, they usually forget the full phrase. The blood of the covenant is thicker than the water of the womb. Meaning, the relationships you choose mean more than the ones you're born into. And I had spent far too long treating biology like destiny. Even after everything, Linda tried one last time. A letter. Actual paper. Her handwriting on the front. It smelled like her perfume. Always floral, always 2 spritzes too many. I let it sit on the counter for a day before opening it. Not because I expected sincerity, but because I wanted to mark the moment. 2 pages. Neatly written. Full of phrases like we didn't know. And it wasn't intentional. And we only wanted what was best for everyone. My favorite line? You've always been so strong, we didn't realize you needed anything from us. That's what people say when they benefit from your silence and need a reason to excuse their absence. She closed with, we hope someday you'll come home. Maybe we can start over. Maybe we can be a family again. No mention of the fraud. No apology. Just a vague hope that I'd forget the details in favor of sentiment. I didn't reply. Didn't throw the letter away either. Just put it in the drawer with my lease agreements and property tax forms. Filed under closure attempted. A year passed. I didn't hear from them again, not directly. One Christmas, I got a forwarded email from a cousin. It was a family update newsletter Linda had apparently started. Photos of Carol holding a puppy. A paragraph about Robert's new consulting work. A euphemism, I assumed, for emailing former clients and hoping one of them replied. The newsletter called me Daniel, our world traveler. I hadn't left the county in 3 years. Still, I appreciated the attempt at mythology. I didn't respond, didn't even correct it. By then, I was busy repainting the front steps of the triplex. Burnt red. The same shade as the berries that used to grow wild near the back fence when I was a kid. I fixed the garden, pulled out weeds that had no business surviving that long, replaced the cracked sidewalk tiles, refinished the banister. It wasn't about making it perfect, just livable, honest. There is a kind of peace that comes when the noise finally dies down. When you stop checking your phone expecting confrontation, when you sleep without grinding your teeth, when you wake up, not in someone else's house but your own. There's a photo on my mantle now. It's just me, standing on the front porch holding the keys. No one had to be cropped out. That's what makes it my favorite, because no one else needed to be in it for it to matter. I still get messages sometimes, through a cousin, a neighbor, an old family friend, little probes. Thinking of you. Hope you're well. We miss you. They never ask what I want, never offer to fix what was broken, because they don't think they broke anything. But I stopped needing that kind of recognition a long time ago. What I have now isn't flashy. It's not a magazine spread or a curated Christmas card. It's quiet. There's sunlight in the mornings, fresh coffee, neighbors who say hi, tenants who trust me, a home I can afford, one that didn't come with strings or guilt or edits, just walls I painted myself, a garden I built from scratch, and silence that isn't heavy anymore. It's peaceful. I used to think the loudest way to win was to burn everything down. But sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is walk away, build your own life, and let the silence speak for itself. I didn't get revenge. Not really. What I got was better. I got my name back, I got my story back, and I didn't need their permission to write the ending.